Hi, welcome to this presentation on what if curiosity is your most valuable resource. Very excited to share with you a little more on how I use curiosity, and specifically curiosity-based learning or curiosity-based innovation to work to drive innovation, to get more satisfaction, and to do more with the curiosity that occurs naturally within all of us. So a little bit about me first. My name is Matt Murrie. I'm a writer. I've written 8 books now, including the Book of What If, where we explore curiosity more and explore innovation in learning through questions, what if questions that either have no answer or haven't been answered yet. And with this book and with curiosity, I work with entrepreneurs, educators, and executives from all over the world. As an entrepreneur, my business is called What If Curiosity. And as an educator, I've been able to rely on what I've learned as an educator and as an entrepreneur to create the curiosity-based learning that I'm about to share with you today. So to start, anytime we work with curiosity or curiosity-based learning, I like to kick it off with a crazy what if question or something to get the curiosity starting. And sometimes this curiosity at the beginning has nothing to do with what we'll discuss later, or at least we think it doesn't, right? Sometimes it does. It's a small seed that I'm trying to plant later for my students or for the people that we're working with. But this one is just an example. It is from the Book of What If, but it's a real fun what if question to start off. So one of the things I like to do, especially when working with innovators, is to start with the dream we all have, right? What if we had a box that could make anything? What if we could snap our fingers and have whatever we wanted? What would it be that you would create or that you would ask for or that you would hope this box would make for you if you had a box that could make anything? And I'm going to pause right here so all of you can take a second and think about what you would do with a box that could make anything. Now, the next question I have for you is to start thinking about what is the most important characteristic for innovative work? Now, there could be many characteristics, and certainly there are, but I'd be curious to know what you think is the most characteristic for innovative work. You may have an idea what I think. So, one of the ways I'd like to show the importance of curiosity is to go beyond just my own thoughts and experiences and to share some of what experts or leaders in different fields say about curiosity. And I find this really interesting that oftentimes it's very easy to think of curiosity as being something that's frivolous or just for fun or to do in our downtime. But what if curiosity isn't just a tool, but it's a characteristic in demand? Now, the company Merck out of Germany have been, for the last 3 or 4 years, have been publishing actually the State of Curiosity. And they're doing this, at least in part, because as an innovation company, they're trying to find out what are the elements, what are the characteristics for innovation? How do we become more innovative? How do we make sure we have workers that are innovative and keep our company moving forward in an innovative way? And what they've discovered is they need more curiosity. And it's fascinating because we've heard teachers, we've heard schools saying, even parents saying we need more curiosity. Schools are killing our curiosity and all these things about how we're not cultivating this curiosity. But a lot of times I think it's thought of just for, kids to have more fun at school. But what if it's not just about enjoying school more? What if curiosity is not just a tool, but a skill, a characteristic that our young people need to succeed at work, to succeed in their careers? And even more, what if curiosity is a characteristic, not just for our students, but our current workers, our current leaders, our current executives? If this is true, and that more and more evidence that we're collecting is pointing that this and more is true, what are we doing as communities? What are we doing as companies? What are we doing as organizations to not only cultivate curiosity within our companies and within our projects, but to make sure we're encouraging curiosity for the future. So we can talk about curiosity in a lot of different ways, and sometimes it's helpful to start defining or not even a single definition, but start becoming more specific in exactly what curiosity is, right? And we'll explore curiosity more here and hopefully later on. But one of the things to keep in mind is, there's no single definition of curiosity. And curiosity can be different for so many different people. But in that same executive summary, they're starting to track down specific dimensions of curiosity. And as you'll see, even these definitions or characteristics of curiosity aren't their own, right? They go off in other directions. So even here, it's hard to get a single definition for some of these. But we can generally agree that when somebody's curious, they're more inquisitive. Right? And because of that inquisitiveness, their behavior changes, right? They explore more things. There's an enthusiasm to what they're doing. But also, as you know, in the workforce, it's also one of the great characteristics of this inquisitiveness that comes with curiosity is that people go beyond their job requirements. You know, they ask questions. They don't just feel like, well, I show up to work at this time, I do X, Y, and Z, and then I go home. No, they don't look at, work as something to get through. They look at it as something to conquer, something to explore, something to really kind of make their own, right? And as a part of this, they oftentimes go beyond what they're required, and they ask questions, and they look for advice. But they also are creative. Yeah, sometimes we talk about thinking outside the box or creative solutions. Well, creativity is a dimension of curiosity. They're not the same. But when someone's curious, that curiosity becomes a fuel that allows them to become more creative. The curiosity can give them directions on where they focus their creativity or what they do and accomplish with their creativity. But beyond this inquisitiveness and this creativity, curiosity also brings a distress for tolerance, right? In other words, they're not that someone's more scared or less scared, I should say, of doing something new, but they're more tolerant of something different or new. They're more willing, and even if it's scary, they have a courage or motivation that could be lacking in someone who's less curious, let's say. And lastly, curiosity brings an openness. It's not just an attitude and an energy, but people tend to approach things with more of an open mind, not just for solutions or where they look for solutions, but what solutions they do find. And even on top of that, how to go on to implement those solutions. So even if people aren't 100% convinced that curiosity is something to grab onto or something to encourage, I think one or all of these dimensions of curiosity, I think, are pretty well understood as far as how important or how valuable they could be. Now, I also, in the spirit of going beyond my own experiences and thoughts of curiosity, I always like to look for new sources and new discoveries. And this article from the Harvard Business Review is one that's really been motivating me and pushing me for the last couple years. Because as you can see, this is still the very beginning. There's outside of myself, I really don't know too many people who are diving deep into curiosity and truly quantifying it or finding actual ways to create more curiosity and ways to actually do something with it beyond the ideation stage, right? So this is from the Harvard Business Review, but if you read it, it's still more of a call to learn more or do more with curiosity. And what I'm about to share with you today is going to be a little glimpse into how I'm working to drive this importance of curiosity and hopefully raise the CQ or the curiosity quotient of students, of workers, of entrepreneurs, of executives, so we can all be more curious, more innovative, and more active participants, regardless of what we're doing on this planet. And before we go a little further, I do like to just kind of throw in a few more of my own thoughts on curiosity as far as the importance or the power of it, the potential of curiosity. And one of the first things to think about, what if curiosity isn't just these characteristics, but what if it's about discovery, right? What if progress is powered by surprise? And what if reality is the product of ideas we act upon? I bring up these questions because discovery, surprise, and acting upon ideas are all at the very heart of curiosity-based learning and curiosity-based innovation. So the idea is that once we can tap into that emotion, I can call it, right, of discovery, the way you feel after you discover something new, if we can capture that energy of being surprised, right, and if we can share with people that our ideas aren't worthless, and in fact, if we can learn new and better ways to act on our ideas and to put our ideas into action, that we actually can become agents and creators of our own reality. So these are some pretty powerful thoughts to explore when diving deeper into the power and potential of curiosity. In fact, since we're talking about power, a question I like to ask is, what if curiosity is humanity's superpower? Yeah? What if, we're humans and we have skills and abilities, but we do have a superpower, something that makes us different from all the other living beings on the planet. I'm curious what you think about this. And if it is a superpower, how can we use it? Because something else I'd like for you to think about is, sometimes we talk about superpowers, and in reality terms, superpowers are oftentimes just labeled as technology, right? Because some of the things that the technology we have today, if you were to tell someone 10 years ago or 20 years ago that they existed, they would think you had a superpower, right? So I always like to think about, how can we connect or combine curiosity, a natural resource that exists in all of us? How can we connect that with other types of technologies? So for example, how do we connect curiosity with things like technology, like a cell phone, right? Or a laptop, or other, AR, VR? How can we make these connections between innovative technologies and curiosity? But the same way I'm always looking for new ways to explore curiosity, I'm always looking for new ways. And honestly, the way curiosity allows us, our curiosity-based learning approach allows us to look at things in new dimensions or new ways. I like to think of technology in new ways or different ways and think, well, what is a technology? Or where else, what other technologies can we combine our curiosity with? So I was thinking about something recently, and I realized that what if we had this technology? What if there was a technology in the world that was self-powered, that was self-healing, that if it hurt itself, it could repair, right? That it had the ability to manufacture and produce new goods, that it was self-learning, it could teach itself new skills, that this technology could also store tons of data, yeah? And that whenever it faced trouble, it could troubleshoot abilities and create new solutions. And it was continuously adaptive, and it was even collaborative, and it could be self-replicating. And when it was old, it was biodegradable. Like, what if there's a technology that possessed all of these specifications? And what if we could take this technology and combine it with curiosity? Imagine what we could do on this planet. And not just this planet, but beyond this planet. Imagine what we could do in the universe if we had this technology with our own curiosity. It would be incredible, right? It would be like having the superpower of all the superheroes all at once. But you see, the thing is, we have this technology. This technology is you. It's me. This is humanity. This is human beings, right? What if we're the technology? And curiosity is our energy. And what if we can power this human technology? We can power it and guide it with curiosity that comes not just from us individually, but collectively. What could we do? What could we accomplish? And as a part of this, what I've been doing with curiosity-based learning through What If is trying to get this message to as many people as possible. And a way to do this without overwhelming people so that they're just asking what if all the time, or they're just saying, I am curious, right? At the end of the day, we still need direction. We still need guidance. So what I've done is I'm going to share with you the 8 guiding questions that guide me as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as an educator, and just as a human on this earth. Instead of having a mission statement or a vision statement for my company, I use guiding questions, and I'm going to share them with you here today because these provide a baseline for curiosity-based learning. And I'm hoping we have some more opportunities in the future to dive deeper, not just into curiosity-based learning, but some of the processes we use to use curiosity-based learning to drive this innovation and to actually accomplish things and to actually turn our ideas into action. And I will, at the end of this presentation, I'll wrap this presentation up with sharing at least one simple curiosity-based learning process I think you can use beyond this repeatedly in the future. But before that, I think you can also use these questions not just to understand who I am as a person or what my business is as a business, but each one of these questions should provide you with a stimulation for more innovative thoughts on how to think not just creatively, but curiously, and how you can use curiosity on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, to keep pushing you forward for more innovative ideas and actions. And the first question is, what if curiosity is a natural resource that can be converted into an energy? And I've had to hold off not getting into this immediately. A lot of times I like starting off with this thought because this is one of the most fundamental aspects of curiosity-based learning, is to realize that curiosity isn't just a fleeting thought or a shallow feeling or emotion. It truly is a resource. And when I talk about a natural resource, I see a future where curiosity is considered to be a natural resource, the same way as gas or oil, gas and oil, wind power or solar power or hydropower, right? We found other resources that we can convert into energy to accomplish work. Well, why can't we do the same with curiosity? And the idea is that curiosity is a natural resource. It's organic. We're organic. It exists inside of us. And what we try to do with curiosity-based learning is create processes that refine that resource, that convert it into an energy. But if you don't come to it realizing that it is a resource, the energy is not as strong. And it's beautiful about curiosity as a natural resource because it's different from things like creativity and intelligence and all of these other things. It's something that we as humans are all born with in equal measures. And regardless of what your life experiences, you can regain your curiosity, right? Sometimes you're born with we're all different in how creative or intelligent, the same way, we're different heights or different shapes and sizes, yeah? But curiosity is that great equalizer. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, what religion you are, what language you speak. We all possess the ability to tap into this incredible source of energy. Now, the trick is understanding the processes to do it. But again, you can't even start that process unless you entertain this question and explore and wonder if curiosity truly is a natural resource and can be converted into an energy. So the next question is, what if you want to change the world? You have to start changing the world. Yeah. This might seem like a what? What kind of question is this? But this is an incredibly important question because people are always talking about, I want to change the world. I'm going to do this big old thing, right? And that's fantastic. The world needs changing. And whether we like it or not, it will change. But how often do we want to change the world, but we're not even willing to change the tiniest thing about ourselves or our daily activities? My TEDx talk was, what if our socks didn't match? And the whole thing was built around exploring this idea in that before we can go out and change the world, what are the little things that we do, maybe even on a daily basis, that could be different, or we do without thinking, or there could be a different way? And for me, it was realizing that, well, what if your socks don't have to match, right? And I'll never forget, I was late to work one day because I was trying to find two socks that matched. And I was running around yelling and screaming, why can't my socks match? Where's the other one, right? And I realized that I was getting so upset over something that may not even matter. A lot of times I go to work and nobody ever sees my socks, right? So what does it matter? And this started a trend, a very small trend. We're not talking about the world. We're talking about stinky socks, right? And when I gave up caring if my socks matched, my entire world changed. Now, truthfully, occasionally somebody will say, your socks don't match. Okay, moving on. Nothing happens, right? 90% of the time, nobody even sees my socks. But guess what? I'm never late to work again because I'm looking for something that doesn't matter. And this is carried on from socks to other things. Another thing I like to share here with this is, scientists have studied luck, and they discovered, unfortunately, luck doesn't exist. However, they did discover lucky people, or people who consider themselves lucky, share certain characteristics. One of the characteristics that lucky people, or people who think they're lucky, do is they are always breaking their routines. They're always doing things slightly different. So for example, someone who considers themselves lucky, one of the characteristics we find is that they rarely go to work the same way every day. So one day they may walk or drive to work this way, and the next day they go this way, right? Or when they go for walks, they never do the same circle. They're always doing things slightly different. And this is interesting because it doesn't make them more lucky. It doesn't mean if you go a different way, all of a sudden, gold falls out of the sky. What it does is because they do things differently, their animal brain is turned on to like high alert. So if you do the same thing the same way every day, your brain gets lazy. Your brain doesn't want to work, okay? That's just a fact. Your brain's always looking way to save energy, to conserve, to cut corners, to really kind of go into automatic pilot. And if you take the same direction to work every single day, you can almost do it in your sleep. Your brain just shuts off and says, all right, I know what we're doing, and you just cruise along. But when you change the way you go, or when you break routine, your brain goes from falling asleep or taking a nap to going on high alert. So what happens is it's constantly looking for new things. And that is where the luck comes in. Because it's constantly looking for new things, your brain is now literally open to new things. And what we end up doing is we have a problem in translation. We think that new thing is just instead of thinking it's a new thing, we think it's lucky, right? But it's not luck. It's just our brain was open to it. So this is something I love, especially with entrepreneurs and executives, is to ask them, what are the little changes you can do? Whether it's how you run a meeting or whether it's you walk from your office to the water fountain. What can you do, or how you get dressed in the morning, right? What are the little things that you can do or change constantly to open you up for other changes? Another guiding question is, what if you can think it? You can do it. And this is a fun one because this might seem, well, duh, but how often do we do this? How often do we implement this thought? So, for example, I always ask, what was the first step for humans to go to the moon? And a lot of times people think, well, they had to build a rocket. I go, well, before that, well, they had to understand rocket science and how to build a rocket. It's all right, well, before that. And then we go on and on and on. And rarely do they get to what really was the first step to going to the moon. Because it probably happened tens of thousands of years ago. You see, the first step for humans to go to the moon was somebody had to look up into the sky and wonder, what if we could go up there? right? What if that white circle in the sky isn't a white circle, but it's an actual place? And what if we don't jump there? What if we can't climb there? But what if we have to find some way to get there? And you can see, we start exploring all these eventually, but without thinking, what if we could go there? We would never get there. Now, the trick is, how do we compress that time from asking the question, what if we could go to the moon, to taking the action of actually launching? Now, in this case, the distance between the question and the action was tens of thousands of years. Who has that much time to wait? But if you realize this question and you utilize this question, you can immediately start shrinking the distance between thought and action. So one of the things is, again, I work with schools and students and teachers and executives and entrepreneurs. And strangely enough, one of the hardest things to get them to do, but one of the most effective things, is to push them to ask crazier questions. Push them to ask their workers and their students to ask crazier questions. If you're asking a what if question that has a yes or no answer, it's not crazy enough. We need to truly innovate, we need to be asking questions that are impossible. And the goal isn't a direct answer to that question. The goal is being brave or crazy or both to ask the question. And sometimes it takes you in different places, and that's okay. But if we're not asking big enough questions, we'll never get big enough results. The next one is, what if collaborative competition beats zero sum every time? And this, again, with entrepreneurs, we see a lot now. Entrepreneurs, even if they're competitive or slightly competitive or highly competitive, we see them coming together to collaborate on different things. The idea is that maybe we're in the same sector and we're competitors, but by collaborating or by realizing there's room for all of us, we can raise the entire sector, right? And that by bringing more people to it, that's going to be good for our business. And this idea of everything having to be zero sum, what if that's an artifact of last century? What if it doesn't matter if you're an educator, an entrepreneur, an executive? What if this idea of collaboration is always better? And it doesn't mean that there can be no competition. I like this idea of collaborative competition, right? What if there's ways that we can come together and compete? And again, these questions don't all have answers, but the idea is to give them, to share these questions to drive more innovation. And everybody approaches this question differently. It could look different depending who you are, where you are, or what you're trying to accomplish. But anytime we point to this idea of collaboration over zero sum, we all are winners. And what if there's always a better way? And this isn't to say you should never be satisfied or you should never celebrate your accomplishments. But what if whenever you finish something, even if it was a huge success, one of the first things you do is you can reflect back and try to find how you can improve. Yeah? This is the heartbeat of innovation. If innovators ever thought that their job was done, there would never be more innovation. Look at, we were talking about technology before, right? Telephones. I'm old enough. I remember when telephones were something that hung on the wall. Now they hang out in our back pockets. And in the future, they may be embedded in our ears or in our brain, right? We're constantly innovating. And how does this apply to you? Long term or even day to day? What if there's always a better way? The next one is, what if there are no problems, only opportunities? Now, of course, in the time of COVID, I think this is one that more and more people are realizing. There's always going to be things that we didn't expect, or especially that we didn't want, right? But part of innovation is finding solutions. And can you have solutions without problems? So that's maybe the dirty little secret about innovators and innovation is we actually need problems. Without problems, we wouldn't have a job. Now, that doesn't mean I want more problems necessarily, but it does mean to truly be innovative and to truly engage your curiosity is to take this perspective and approach that when you see a problem, not to deny its severity or to say, I'm not scared. Be scared. Realize the severity and how serious it is. But rather than running away or pretending it doesn't exist, look at that problem and identify the opportunity. Because it's not just, thermodynamics. Everything in this world is in balance. If there's a problem, there's going to be an opportunity. If there's an opportunity, there's going to be a problem. The secret is, how can we look at the problem and find the best opportunity to move forward? What if expectations are the box? Now, again, we've probably heard it 1,000 times. If you've heard the word innovation, you've heard think outside of the box. Yep. Everybody wants this. Everybody says it. Everybody says we need to think, outside of the box. But the one thing nobody ever does is tell you what the box is or even where the box is. Like, let's think outside the box. All right, well, where is that? So again, this is a question, not an answer, but something to explore and to consider, that maybe we can identify the box. Maybe we can find the location of the box. And that box is drawn with our expectations. So if this is true, then how can we innovate? How can we enter new experiences? Or how can we do something with as few expectations as possible? Now, this could be impossible. As human beings, as humans who have experiences, we create expectations. It's natural. So we're always going to have a certain amount of expectations we bring to anything. But again, going back to asking, right? The first step is well, if you can think it, you can do it. What if the first step is realizing that we have expectations, and those expectations are our bias, and those expectations are our limitations? So if we realize that at the beginning, then we can take action to lower our expectations, or maybe even put our expectations in a box and set them over here so that we can explore and innovate freely without those expectations. And lastly, the question is, what if curiosity is the beginning to all great learning? And this is the idea of, one, is reflect back on your own learning. If you can remember a lesson that you really enjoyed or something that you learned at an early age that has stuck with you for a long, ever since you learned it. If you think back and how you learned it, it was probably attached or a result of some curiosity that you had. And what if we could capture that for all future learning? And thinking forward, whether you're an executive or a team leader or whatever, and you want your team or you want an individual to get the most out of their learning, well, what if you start by asking them a question that stimulates their curiosity, that gets them engaged, that makes them wonder about stuff on a personal level? Maybe even something like, what if you had a box that could make anything? And even if it's not directly related to the next thing or to anything, at least you got their curiosity sparked and their brain is on high alert to look for those things that will make them think they're lucky, right? So what if one of our roles as leaders is to make sure that maybe before we take action, or definitely as a part of the actions that we take, curiosity is a part of it. And I talk about learning because with a background in education, learning is always important. But it's not just for educators or teachers. What if no matter what your profession is, you're always a teacher and a student? Now, I'll pause here for a second because this is one of those questions I like to not only discuss, but hear feedback from others. And I'd be really curious to hear or to know what you think about this statement. And just to reflect on your own is, in what ways are you a teacher and in what ways are you a student? And once you realize that, how can that knowledge improve your performance as a teacher, as a student, and as a worker? And just to give you a little insight as far as how this curiosity-based learning looks in the classroom and how it can translate over into the boardroom or over into other workplaces. You see, the fundamental shift that needs to take place from a curiosity-based approach, whether it's learning or innovation, to a more traditional one is realizing, again, whether you're the teacher, the instructor, the leader, whatever your position is, that it's a mental thing. You need to be able to shift from that of director or dictator or teacher or controller to that of a facilitator. And what it looks like is, one of the things to think about is what ways is your relationship with your customers or coworkers like a student-teacher relationship, right? And how does your customers relate to your brand? How is that like a student-teacher relationship? Because once you can make these shifts, it starts looking like this. Now, again, these are examples from, say, a traditional classroom to a curiosity-based learning classroom, but it's applicable to workforces everywhere. So whether you're a team leader or a part of a team, the idea is that when you're leading, instead of you being the person at the top giving or controlling all of the information to your students or to your team members, is what if you could put yourself more in the center, and then you become not just a director or dictator or someone who gives out the information, but you also become a listener, right? You hear what your team members are saying, and then you take that in and you process it, and you use what they're sharing with you to point them in the direction you want them to go. You can still accomplish everything you as a leader wants to under this approach of curiosity-based learning and innovation. You can not only get the same outcomes, you can get more outcomes. It just looks different in doing it, right? I always like to stress, this doesn't mean that all of a sudden everybody else is in charge and you have no control and everything's just chaos. No, we still get just as much done. It's just more of a collaborative effort as opposed to a singular dictator or director. And the same way with traditional or with learning, the process of innovation with curiosity, you can create a flow to it. It has a set process with steps that you can predict, that you can edit or change, or you can rearrange. This is just one example, but you can see you can still start with a point of curiosity and go through steps that result in some sort of action or outcome that can be evaluated and revised, repeated, or redone. So I'm going to leave you here with one curiosity-based learning process. I'll go through it real quickly. Normally I give you time for discussion and writing for each one, but and we can discuss this more in the Q&A later, but I want to make sure we go through each part because this is a process that is repeatable for multiple applications. We start out with just, what do you think curiosity is? Again, you don't have to have a single definition, but just a general idea of the aspects of the characteristics of curiosity. And then to identify, and I'm sure you're curious about many things, but think of just one thing and write down what you're curious about. And then to think about your passion. Like, what is passion? How is it different from curiosity? What does it look like? What are some of the characteristics? And then think about, what is it that you are passionate about? And write down what that is. The next one, we like to talk about resources, right? We have many. Curiosity is clearly a valuable resource. I would say that it's not the number one valuable resource, though. Honestly, what if our most valuable resource is time? And part of the reason with curiosity as a resource is it helps us make better use of our time. Among other things, it helps make the complex simple. It gives us direction for learning and purpose in life. So let's think about time as being your most valuable resource. And if that's true, what is something you care enough about to take the time to find a solution for? So again, this question is intentional. It's not just what do you care about or what do you want to find a solution for? Because there's a lot of stuff we probably care about that maybe we'll give money to or we'll press a like on social media. But what is something that you would sacrifice your time for? What is something you would give up your weekend for? What is something you would give up time to spend with your friends or your family for in order to find a solution? What is that important to you as an individual? So you'll have three things: something you're curious about, passionate about, and that you care enough about to spend your most valuable resource, time, in order to find a solution. And then what we do is we put it together in what we call a what-if power sentence. So what if I combine my curiosity for, whatever you wrote down, with my passion for, to find a solution for? And this is a very simple activity that I use, that we can use over and over. You can do this every single day if you want to. Trust me, it never gets old. You may have a different curiosity, passion, and solution every day. This takes 3 minutes to do. But the power in it is that it's short, it's concise, but it's an expression of you. Nobody's telling you what to do or anything else. And remember, curiosity is a natural resource. Passion is on fire. A solution is something you care for. This should be all the motivation you need going forward. And if you do get lost, if you're not sure what direction you should go to, you can look back at this sentence to give you guidance and to give you ideas going forward. So again, this is your what if power sentence. And I wish we had more time to go through this with you today. I have other activities that I would love to share with you with curiosity-based learning and other ways that you can convert your curiosity into innovation. And I'm just going to leave you here again with my name, Matt Murrie, and how to contact me. If you're curious to learn more about curiosity-based learning or how we can use these methodologies and processes for specific projects or challenges you may face, I'd be more than happy to connect with you and share ideas or just get curious with you and even share more of the curiosity-based learning processes that I've developed over time. Thank you again. I'm really looking forward to the questions that you have, and stay curious.